Thank you so much, Justin, for that. We're going to straighten this out right now. We are in the final round of Swiss. We have 2 4-1 players here, pretty much putting it all on the line, of course. You want to win this one to secure top cut. We've seen Wolfe a couple times up here. This is actually your 3rd time on the main stage. This is Blake's 2nd time. Each of you, how are you guys feeling being back up here on the main stage?
You know, I actually feel pretty nervous. Like, it's all come down to this last round. I was telling Justin earlier, I won all my games at World after losing the first one, and then I lost the last one, so we'll see if this is a repeat or not.
Okay, so you're basically, it's going to be deja vu, or it's going to be a better day, essentially. How are you feeling, Blake?
Pretty anxious. Really excited to be playing Wolfe. I know he's an amazing player, so hoping for a good set.
Now, when you go up against the 2-time national champion, I mean, do you try to look at it? It's hard to objectively look at the game, you know? It's another Pokemon battle, but what are your thoughts right now when you're going up against Wolfe? You're excited, but is there anything else running through your mind?
I mean, I'm just going to try and play my best and hope it's good enough.
I think that's awesome. You have to keep a level head, definitely, when you're going up to any match. I mean, even as a 2-time national champion, like you said, you're getting nervous. How do you fight off those nerves right now once you sit down? What's your procedure?
I'm just going to have to clear my head and focus on the match, I guess.
Definitely, and of course, with everything from choosing your leads to choosing your moves, it's going to be intense. Last game, everything is on the line. Thank you guys so much. Good luck to both of you. Make it a good one for the crowd. We're all here to watch some intense Pokemon. So we're going to bring it back to the casters in just a second and watch this game.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. And wow, the level of competitor that I just saw there, that's pretty impressive. This is going to be one of the best matches of the entire tournament, I believe.
I think it should too, and actually this is a really, really fun matchup. Both these guys had a very similar experience at the World Championships last year. Both of them are, I think, objectively among the top players in the country. Everyone knew that last year, but neither of them actually had their invitations to Worlds going into Washington, D.C. last year. Both of them played in the last year of the Last Chance qualifier, so in this case, really the last chance. And they both made it through. 2 of the 4 players who made it through the Last Chance qualifier, they both went 4-2 at last year's World Championships, and then they both just barely missed the top cut. Wolfe finished 9th, and Blake, I believe, finished 11th. So kind of linked by fate here, and both players, I'm sure they think that, you know, if I just made it in the top cut, if only my opponent's win percentage was a little bit higher, we could have been able to pull that one off. So they're one step closer if they win this match to being able to change history a little bit and get that world's top cut appearance.
Yeah, well, I can't stress it enough how intense it is right now, especially in this final round for both of these players. And again, like you said, Scott, we're talking the 9th player in the world versus the 11th player in the world right now. Guys, it looks like we do have the team on screen here. I believe this is Blake's team, and we've seen it before, but we'll go over it again really, really fast here. It's Charizard, Conkeldurr, Sylveon, Aegislash, Landorus, and Thundurus. But from Wolfe's team, who you can't see on screen, it's going to be Milotic, Kangaskhan, Thundurus, Landorus, Heatran, and Amoonguss.
Pretty fun matchup here. We get to see a little bit more from Blake's team this time. You may remember the last time he was on the stream, he was in that battle where he was facing another team that was basically exactly the same as his. So it's a little bit of a strange matchup. You didn't really get to see what his team could do because just kind of that inherent awkwardness of facing a bunch of mirrors. In this case, you know, the teams match up a little bit differently. You see Wolfe's team's built a little bit more around that competitive Milotic, as we saw before with that Moringa berry. Wolfe, always a player to pull out at least a few clever tricks. Versus on Blake's side, he's got the option of using that Charizard as his main mega. So probably the Heatran and Wolfe side, as usual, going to be a very important Pokemon in this matchup.
And it looks like Blake has decided to go with the Conkeldurr Charizard lead here, and Wolfe going with the Landorus and Kangaskhan. So we'll get an Intimidate off onto both of these Pokemon here, reducing both of their attack by 1 stage. More effective, of course, on the Conkeldurr, known for his physical attacks.
Yeah, Landorus a great lead for Wolfe here, getting that big Intimidate on Conkeldurr, which is important because it can do a bunch of damage to either of these Pokemon otherwise. Fighting type attacks on Kangaskhan, likely to have Ice Punch for Landorus. Charizard probably not quite as excited to be out against these 2 Pokemon, but Conkeldurr a pretty good Pokemon for Blake here. Like I mentioned, can do super effective damage out of these Pokemon, so a pretty neutral lead.
Also can protect with that Wide Guard, so maybe a Rock Slide won't be as efficient here. We see the switch into Milotic from Wolfe Glick there. And Conkeldurr leaving the scene as well for Blake. So a switch for both of our competitors, and let's see what we get for some actual moves here. Intimidate from Landorus will activate Milotic's competitive, which probably not exactly what Blake wanted to see there. And Landorus will get intimidated as well. We see the U-turn, so Wolfe will get Landorus back here, doing just a little bit of damage to the Landorus of Blake Hopper. And Wolfe going to make a quick decision here as to who he thinks is the best Pokemon to bring on the field. And it's going to be Kangaskhan again. So Kangaskhan still ready to go ahead and fake out there. But an interesting move here, a Tailwind from Blake.
Really cool plays by both sides of that play. I want to emphasize what Wolfe did first. I think it's really clever and something that he can do with his team that players have to look out for. Like he leads that Kangaskhan Landorus there. It's like, oh, I've got to intimidate this. There's two big physical attackers out. And just sneakily brings that Milotic in there and lets himself get the competitive boost. It's like, oh, you want to slow me down, right? And that's exactly what, as we were talking about those Pokemon that deal with intimidate before, it's exactly what you want to do. You want to bait your opponent into intimidating you because they feel like they have to and then take advantage of it. Veteran play by an excellent player there.
Yeah, and what Wolfe does a lot of times with his teams is he gets a Pokemon back on the field, like you said, that you thought it was you were going to get rid of. You thought you were either going to nerf this Pokemon or at least like reduce its ability to damage you in some way, and then you see it again and you're like, ah, it just came back. We do get the Mega now from Blake after setting up the Tailwind. We're going to get the Drought from Charizard setting the Sun there. The Sun's turning harsh. And Kangaskhan now going Mega from Wolfe, and this is going to be a very important turn now that neither of them have really done any damage to each other. This is going to be where it starts. Milotic protecting here. Wolfe, of course, always picking the more defensive style. U-turn from Landorus. Milotic protects itself. Flamethrower from Charizard in the Sun, targeting the Kangaskhan slot, doing over 50% damage and picks up the burn. Oh my gosh, return from Kangaskhan. What an incredible play. A critical hit, though. Doing a decent amount of damage to Landorus, who wanted to escape there but couldn't because of the protect on Milotic. However, that burn may have just changed the game.
Yeah, a lot of big things happening that turn. I don't think the burn for the crit is the best trade Wolfe could have made there, but at least he gets something. Definitely has to be careful now. With that burn on Kangaskhan, it becomes much less important for Blake to prioritize it. A little bit easier to say, I've just got Solar Beam and U-turn, just kind of fire those at the Milotic slot and try to start work on taking that down. Though if it does survive that and gets to recover off the Moringa Berry, it can be very difficult to deal with it.
I agree with you there, Scott. And we see the switch into Heatran now, not wanting to lose that Kangaskhan so early here. And a U-turn from the Landorus now finally hits that Milotic, who protected last turn. And Blake is going to be able to choose a Pokemon to bring in for his team.
Yeah, that Pokemon's going to be benefited by Tailwind for a while. We don't see that in Charizard too often, but it did win the German National Championships.
Oh, interesting point there, Scott. It's very interesting to see how the different regions play sometimes. Charizard absorbing the light, going for a Solar Beam, hopefully not targeting the Heatran. I do believe we're going to see it hit the Milotic here and doing a ton of damage, down to 11 hit points. And there is, I believe, the Moringa Berry. There we go. And an Icy Wind. Going to do just a little bit of damage to these Pokemon, but at least reducing their speed. Even though the Tailwind is up, it may not be enough yet.
Yeah, Charizard's still likely the quickest Pokemon in the field, but, Milotic gets something done if Landorus had stayed on the field somehow, which I guess seems unlikely because it was Wolfe. You're probably assuming it's locked into U-turn there, but, still, get some benefit. If Milotic protects here, it'll be quicker on the next turn, if nothing else.
So it looks like Wolfe conserving that Heatran, bringing Kangaskhan back in, Milotic protecting, and just really trying to play it safe. Flamethrower from Charizard, interesting. And the Conch Elder, Drain Punch into the Kangaskhan slot there. Won't really get any health back. Just a touch, because it was only about 30 hit points there, so not quite back up to full health.
Yeah, still not a bad play. Get rid of that Mega.
Yeah.
Can't complain about that. Yeah. Also a nice play, too. You kind of imagine that Blake at least considered Mach Punching that Milotic slot to try to get rid of it before it can recover. Wise play there, realizing Wolfe's not going to let that happen, and takes what he can get.
And it looks like we're going to get another Intimidate here from Wolfe's Landorus, and will reduce the attack of these Pokemon by 1 stage.
Nice play there. It's going to be important for Wolfe to try to find a way to get something done, though. He's got a pretty big deficit now. Blake wisely getting rid of the Charizard, and Wolfe's got to find a way to get some damage on the board.
Exactly, and Blake switching in Landorus now, so a lot of switching back and forth in this matchup. Milotic, of course, getting that competitive boost here, but will it be able to get an attack off is the question. Conch Elder, Mach Punch into the Milotic, definitely picking up the feint there, so a big play there for Blake, and now leading the matchup, I believe 4-2. U-turn from Wolfe Glick into the Conch Elder, and it goes back to Wolfe, and then we're going to go ahead and I think see 2 Pokemon drop here.
Now Landorus is going to have to come right back out because it's running out of teammates here, but at least he gets that extra Intimidate off. I don't know if it'll be enough or not, but you know, at least puts Wolfe in a slightly better position. Also, really sad to see that Milo tick going down. You know, it had 2 boosts from competitive there, so you know, 2 stages away from absolute maximum special attack. Just, you know,
Just attack once, please.
Just makes me just a little bit sad. It's like, oh, I would do so much. There's no way to get it off.
I know. I really was just hoping to see a Scald at some point, or anything. I guess even a Scald in the Sun would be pretty powerful there. Rockside Landers avoids it. Conk Elder avoids it as well. What is going on over there? U-turn from Landers going back to Blake, I believe. And wow, a double Rockslide avoid there.
Yeah, I was expecting Rockslide to do double something, but not the flinch this time, instead the miss.
Yeah, that is a pretty rough turn there for Wolfe, who is probably taking in a lot of information in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, things have not been rolling Wolfe's way this time, but the most important thing you can do in a best-of-3 series like this is get as much information as possible in Game 1 to make sure your strategy in the 2 subsequent games is as clear as it can be. So, you don't think that first game's not the end of the world. We've seen plenty of people come back.
And looks like we get the Heat Wave to, I think, almost finish off the turns here. And a little Citrus Berry for Thunderous, who lost a lot of health on that one. A Drain Punch now from Conk Elder, most likely targeting the Heat Trans slot, doing about 50% damage, and will get a nice little recovery there, going back into the green and almost at 75% health.
Yeah, and importantly, for Blake's own sun fading there. You know, usually as a the Charizard user, you want the sun to be out in the field, but Heatran's the Pokemon who's getting the advantage from it here. Not having to worry about that now makes things a little bit easier for Conkeldurr. Slightly less likely to be knocked out by a series of Heat Waves and Rock Slide flinches here, though. I mean, it's still not a great position for it, and wisely, Blake taking this out for now.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to choose that that Landorus. We'll get an Intimidate here again. Reducing the attack of Wolfe's Pokemon by 1 stage there, mostly affecting that Landorus that tried to Rock Slide last time. Of course, a Prankster ability, Thunder Wave, from that Thunderous, and Rock Slide here. Oh, it actually hit some Pokemon this time. Every once in a while, you know. It gets them doing a decent amount of damage, actually, with that reduced attack. And a Heat Wave may be enough to get rid of these Pokemon. And wow, Wolfe actually taking down, I believe, 2 Pokemon here for Blake. So it's actually a 2v2 right now.
Yeah, it's a big double knockout. We get to a tie game from this one. However, the cost of that was an Intimidate on Landorus and the paralysis on Heatran. I think Blake knowingly made that sacrifice. Heatran being paralyzed makes it a little bit easier for Conkeldurr to try to deal with it now. Even if Conkeldurr flinches once, as long as it doesn't flinch twice or get hit by a critical hit Heat Wave, it should be able to knock out that Heatran, which vastly makes it easier for Blake to try to close out this game. Also, with that Intimidate and Landorus, there's a pretty good chance that Charizard can survive a single Rock Slide, and if it can get that Tailwind up there and allow Conkeldurr to have an easier time potentially avoiding the flinches from Rock Slide, assuming it's quick enough that Tailwind could get it over this probable Choice Scarf Landorus.
Well, we do see that Rock Slide. It actually does manage to do some damage here, doing a ton to Charizard. Takes it down into the red here. Charizard does end up flinching. Conkeldurr flinches. A double flinch for Wolfe Glick. He goes with the Heat Wave. I think he's going to get rid of the Charizard here, and Conkeldurr into the red. This is incredible. A critical hit on Charizard even. No way did I just see that. A double flinch into the Heat Wave. Everything seems to be going Wolfe's way right now. I cannot believe he just turned this match around.
Yeah, everything. It seemed almost all over, right? Like there was very little it seemed like Wolfe could do to get out of this one, and then Landorus happened. You know, we got the double miss before, we get the double flinch now, and that's all it takes to completely flip this matchup. And, you know, Blake had to make some sacrifices to get into a seemingly advantageous 2-on-2 situation, but not that advantageous after all.
I am rendered speechless. That was one of the most insane plays right there that went in Wolfe's favor, and he just probably can't even believe it himself, I think.
He is, however, not out of the woods yet. Rock Slide probably not going to knock out here, so Conkeldurr still has a shot.
It looks like he almost gets it, and I think there it is. A critical hit from the Rock Slide. Wow. Of course, a Drain Punch could have been detrimental there to Wolfe, getting a ton of life back on that Conkeldurr. So you're right, he wasn't out of the woods, but what an incredible back-and-forth matchup. I am just in shock.
Yeah, I am not entirely sure what just happened there.
Where am I?
Yeah, that was a very strange match. It seemed like everything was going one way with 2 or 3 turns left in that match, and then just everything crazy that could happen did. Early in the match, I guess, things are kind of swinging the other way, where Wolfe is getting the bad breaks, but boy, things turn around at the end there. A very strange game of Pokemon, but that's what happens sometimes. This is a game where you've got to kind of roll with the punches, realize that, sometimes luck's going to be against you, sometimes it's going to be for you. You just have to play as well as you can to put yourself in situations where you have a chance of winning.
No, you're exactly right, Scott. Like, it's easy to become frustrated maybe with things that aren't going your way sometimes, but it's all a risk-reward type of game. So are you willing to use a move that maybe won't hit them, or things like that? So really interesting plays there. And that's another thing about the game. Don't ever think it's over.
That's right.
It's over when all 4 of your Pokemon are back in their Pokeballs. That's when the match is over. So really, Wolfe showing a lot of heart there in that one.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of crazy comebacks so far this weekend, and that one might be the craziest yet. And that's why you keep playing out the match as long as you've got a chance to win it.
Yeah.
I do think one thing to keep in mind, too, sometimes it's easy to watch a match like that, and you're like, oh, Wolfe was so far behind. Like, it's ridiculous that you turn that one around in a double rock slide. But Pokemon's very much a game of managing your odds. You've got to play the whole game knowing that, if I make this move, these are my odds of winning, where if I make a different move, my odds are this. You got to play your highest odds, and sometimes things are going to roll your way, sometimes you aren't. Over the course of the Swiss period of this tournament, these players are going to end up playing 15 best of 3s.
Yeah.
And you're going to have a lot of good luck and a lot of bad luck over that many games.
Exactly. Now we're going to get the leads here. Very important turn, of course. The lead can change a game. Wolfe going with the Landorus Kangaskhan and a Landorus Thundurus lead from Blake Hopper, who I spoke to yesterday, and I think that he revealed to me that this is maybe the farthest he's gone in nationals before.
Yeah, I believe so. He's been a good performer at the regional level, but part of why he had to play in that last chance qualifier last year was that the national championships didn't quite work out the way he would have preferred it to. So Blake's pretty deep now, and even with a loss here, he actually has a pretty good shot of making the top cut.
Yes.
But I'm sure at this point, you want to make sure you get in for free. You made it, or without having to stress, I guess. Nothing free about it, but especially to, in theory, get an easier opponent.
Yeah, you're just sweating as they put the top cut sheets out, and you just start scrolling down 1, 2, 3, 4, and you just hope your name shows up before the 8. We get the big rock slide there from Wolfe's Landorus, doing a decent amount of damage to Thundurus there, and a little bit to the Landorus of Blake. Of course, that Intimidate from Blake early on, reducing its attack, so not quite as effective as that rock slide could have been. Now Blake will get its Landorus back from the U-turn there.
Yeah, wise play. Landorus' side doesn't want to deal with that Intimidate anymore. It gets out.
And we see the Conch Elder come in, a great Pokemon now for this matchup. And a Hidden Power Ice going into the Landorus, picks up the Fainter, a critical hit. So Blake getting a little bit of that luck coming back to him. And Kangaskhan now, though, returning the favor. Oh my gosh, takes it down into the yellow there, getting the Citrus Berry, and the second hit should at least reduce it below 50%, but unfortunately not able to get rid of that Thundurus and Conch Elder there, threatening Kangaskhan for Wolfe Glick. We do see Milotic, though, joining the party.
Yeah, nice trade for Blake there. I mean, always getting rid of that Landorus is a big deal. Now, he no longer has to worry about that Intimidate, which makes it easier for much of his Pokemon. A little adjustment we see from Blake there is choosing not to lead Conkeldurr this time, so that he gets it out without having to deal with that Intimidate, and he gets the knockout. Even U-turning the Landorus slot is pretty clever. A lot of people will train their Landorus just barely be able to survive those hidden powers from Thundurus, so simply get around that.
And it looks like Wolfe has decided to protect here, and a Thunder Wave into that slot. Scald now from Milotic into the Conkeldurr, doing a decent amount of damage and picking up the burn. And here we go, a Drain Punch now from Conkeldurr, doing absolutely nothing to Milotic, maybe getting back 10 to 15 hit points, but now the burn also doing some damage. And again, like I said earlier, there was a Thunder Wave there. It happened really fast into the Protect of Kangaskhan.
And Wolfe, one of those players that uses Protect instead of Fake Out on his Kangaskhan, fits his defensive playstyle very nicely. And not being paralyzed is going to help him out a lot here. What's not going to help this Conkeldurr out is being burned. We see that Drain Punch doing pretty piddly damage there. Hints that this Conkeldurr is not the Guts variant that we saw more of last year. Instead, the Iron Fist version that was one of the most dominant Pokemon, if not the most dominant Pokemon in the 2013 Video Game World Championships.
And I'm looking at a couple of tweets here. I believe PokeChamp was the previous tweet. He said, "This is the match." So guys, tweet at us, #PlayPokemon. You might see your tweets on screen. We get a return from Kangaskhan now into that Thundurus slot. It's most likely going to pick up the feint off the first shot there. Of course, the Protect on Milotic there, and let's see what we get from Conkeldurr. A Drain Punch, but it is burned. Will it do much to Kangaskhan? About 50%, but really struggling with that burn. Almost up to full health, but can't do much at this, especially if it doesn't have that Guts ability.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Blake's really wishing he could change his mind and his ability choice now. We know whenever you're not burned, Conkeldurr primarily has punching moves, so that Iron Fist is really strong. It's when that ability got released, Conkeldurr had a big surge of popularity 2 years ago. But with all the burns in the game now, it's not quite what it used to be. It's a little bit harder to give up that Guts ability. We see a lot of the Conkeldurr using Iron Fist now, using Lumberry to try to prevent this from happening. Blake's gone for that Assault Vest instead, which not working quite as well in this situation.
Yeah, it didn't do a ton of damage from the Scald, but those secondary abilities attached to those moves is really where you can get shut down. Now, we do see Blake bringing in Charizard now, revealing his, I think, final Pokemon there.
Yeah, he's still not in a bad spot, though. We saw Milotic didn't really enjoy those Solar Beams very much earlier in the series. Conkeldurr, in spite of being burned, can still duke it out with Kangaskhan pretty well here. Both sides are definitely still in this one.
Yeah, and the Heatran now coming in for Wolfe, maybe trying to take advantage of that potential Sun, depending on if Blake goes Mega here. And yes, he does, so that will give a boost to the attacks, or at least to the Fire-type attacks of Heatran here. And let's see what moves we're going to get from these trainers as soon as the Sun gets done turning harsh here. Mach Punch from Conkeldurr into the Heatran slot, so both Pokemon, of course, weak to fighting-type attacks. Return from Kangaskhan into the Charizard slot, doing over 50% damage there. Very bulky Charizard there. Of course, now absorbing the light, but oh no, probably not going to do very much at all, especially to a Pokemon like Heatran, which I believe resists that 4 times resistance.
Yeah, it's not such a strong beam there. Blake looks a little bit silly, but that's kind of a 50-50 prediction where, Heatran is most likely the last Pokemon, even though Wolfe hasn't shown it yet. So, is he going to bring it in which slot? One of the alternative plays Blake could have made there was flamethrowing the Kangaskhan and getting that. So it's a matter of which Pokemon Wolfe is going to risk and guessing correctly. Unfortunately, the Mach Punch Solar Beam there aimed at making sure Milotic is low enough to be knocked out by a Solar Beam. Doesn't work out so well there when it's on Heatran instead. So Wolfe's the player who makes the right read here, and Blake is in a lot of trouble because of it.
And we do see Blake withdrawing the Charizard here, deciding to bring in the Landorus. Will get an Intimidate off onto that Kangaskhan, reducing its attack by a stage. So good choice there, but now with the potential for Heat Wave in the Sun, it could be scary. But although Wolfe is going back behind the substitute, Blake seems really excited here, going with a Drain Punch, breaking that substitute now, and I do think it will be just enough to get rid of it. There we go. The substitute has faded, and Heatran back on the field for this Landorus that definitely threatens with its speed.
Blake should be excited, though. That's a big read to avoid giving Heatran that free substitute. I feel like Blake is one wrong play away from being knocked out of this match at this point, so he's got to hit every turn now. That one was what he had to do. He doesn't attack into the Protect. Instead, he keeps that substitute down and keeps Landorus in a position where he can help win the game. He's still in kind of tough water, though, but getting Landorus out safely without activating Milotic's competitive is a big step toward getting back in this match.
I agree with you there that he had to play almost 100%, and it looks like he's doing it. Maybe one more big move, and it could be a completely different game here. Now, I believe that I saw a Mach Punch into that Kangaskhan, and an Earthquake there into the Milotic and Kangaskhan of Wolfe Glick, and Kangaskhan faints, but he did switch out the Heatran so that it wouldn't take very much damage, and Milotic able to kind of endure that Earthquake a little bit.
Yeah, kind of, but that's 100% the right play for Blake, and unfortunately, maybe the only play Wolfe could make. Getting that Mach Punch onto the Kangaskhan slot allows Landorus to do enough damage to knock it out, and now, I don't know what you do if you're Wolfe. A Mach Punch and an Earthquake would certainly be able to knock out Milotic here. Earthquake should be able to knock out Heatran, and even if, Wolfe were to double Protect here and allow Blake to embarrassingly knock out his own Conkeldurr with Earthquake, then Charizard gets to come back in for free and aim some Solar Beams at Milotic. Unless that, say, somehow Wolfe can stall out the Sun and survive an Earthquake and a Fire-type attack, he's in a really rough spot here, and he doesn't Protect with Milotic.
And it looks like we get the Mach Punch into the Milotic slot, and there goes the Earthquake. We probably will see the Conkeldurr faint this turn, but will it be enough to get rid of the Milotic? And yes, Milotic down to 0. Blake turning the match around. Looked to be in a tough position there, but predicting the substitute from Wolfe Glick on the prior turn there was absolutely huge. Heatran getting a little bit of health back from its leftovers there, and if I think I saw each player shake hands. If Wolfe hasn't forfeited, we will see Charizard jump back onto the field here.
Yeah, Wolfe's not going to be able to do anything. That Heatran slower than the Landorus, Earthquake doing quite a lot of damage to Fire and Steel type Pokemon. This is going to go to a third game, as it should.
Yeah, and there is the Earthquake, not effective on Charizard at all because of its flying type, and doing a ton of damage to Heatran, taking it all the way from the green down to 0. And back to Wolfe, incredible match there. This has been an absolutely insane series. This might be the series of the competition.
I love that series by Blake there, especially. You know, he's right on the brink of losing the series. It's like, it was one wrong move from getting knocked out of the match there. You know, and he plays exactly how you have to in that situation. You know, it's a lot of players when their backs against the wall like that, you'll see some really strange things happen. But Blake, he stayed calm, he saw the right play, he made it, and now he's on to the game 3 because of it.
Yeah, that was absolutely huge. This is big for both of these players. Both of them have quite a bit of points. They're both looking to extend their days at the World Championships, but also just making it to the top 8 here today is a huge achievement. You want to be who doesn't want to be the national champion, right? So there's a lot on the line for this match because they are both, I believe, 4-1.
Right. Yeah. So with a win, either of them guarantee themselves a spot in the top cut. With a loss, they still have a pretty good chance, but you never want to leave that up to, you know, your opponent's win percentage, just hoping that you end up in the top cut. No worse feeling than waiting for that.
Yeah, we're taking over 400 trainers down to 38 today, and that is about to go to 8 right after this match. And of course, those matches will be aired as well right after this. So there's a lot more Pokemon today. Both trainers actually choosing their teams incredibly fast here, Scott. It sounds like they knew what they wanted to do.
Yeah, I don't think this one is so much about the Pokemon they select, just the way they use those Pokemon.
Yes.
I think both guys kind of realize that we play this match as well as we're capable of. 5-1 is right there, but this first turn is going to be very important.
And Blake going with the Conch Elder and Charizard lead here, and Wolfe deciding to go with the Landorus as well as Milotic lead. And there goes the Intimidate, of course, going to at least do something to that Conch Elder there, who was actually still so incredibly useful, even with a burn.
Yeah, it was a big part of Blake being able to come back there and kind of see how strong Conkeldurr can be. But even with that little unfortunate burn, he's in a tough spot. But Charizard has to protect here. 2 Pokemon that do pretty well against it out.
I agree with you there. Charizard protects itself. We do see the Rock Slide doing some damage to Conkeldurr, but not much at all. Trained to be obviously very, very defensive as well. There is the Scald into the Conkeldurr. Another burn! There is no way. That is incredible. Another burn onto that Conkeldurr slot there. So the Intimidate and the burn will definitely play a huge factor here.
Absolutely. Wolfe's living right today. Another Scald burn right in the first try on this Conkeldurr. And boy, once again, just like, where's my guts? Tough spot, too. I really liked Wolfe's lead this game. One of the problems he's had is trying to knock out that Charizard with his Landorus, and always keeps getting intimidated, not being able to pick up that knockout. So even though you wouldn't normally think of pairing Landorus with Milotic the way you'd think of pairing like Mega Salamence or Kangaskhan with it, Milotic now trying to encourage Blake not to just intimidate that Landorus to weaken the damage to Charizard. Instead, Charizard having to switch out here.
And it does look like we will see the Thundurus show up on this one, and you're exactly right. It has had trouble getting rid of that Charizard. We get the Rock Slide there, doing over 50%, I believe, almost to Thundurus there, and Conkeldurr down. Oh, with a critical hit and an Icy Wind, going to really put this Thundurus in a scary situation. Conkeldurr, of course, down in the yellow. And the speed will fall on both of these Pokemon, who aren't necessarily super fast anyway, but maybe Milotic will have a little advantage against that Thundurus, possibly.
Yeah, though we see everybody's going to go slow now.
Yeah. Oh, man. Of course, Blake connecting right there onto that Landorus and getting that speed reduction.
Yeah, I don't know if Blake's just expecting that a different Pokemon would be coming into that slot or not, but noticing that Drain Punch in a Rock Tomb. I assume he was thinking that Wolfe would Scald this time, and that by Rock Tombing, he'd allow his Thundurus to move before the Landorus, either force it out or pick up a knockout with Hidden Power Ice. Unfortunately, Milotic wasn't having any of that, and Icy Winded to keep Landorus' speed advantage, so we kind of see Conkeldurr and Milotic deciding the winner of the Thundurus-Landorus duel there. And with all that damage on Blake's Pokemon, in addition to no longer being faster, Wolfe's in a nice spot, though he's going to let Landorus escape anyway.
So Wolfe does decide to switch Outlanders, bringing in Heatran here. And a Thunder Wave now, of course, with that Prankster ability, giving a priority to non-attacking moves. And a Scald now from Milotic. No, not quite enough to pick it up, but it gets another burn. And Thunderous only has about 2 more turns left on the field here. A big Ice Punch into the Heatran, so a great switch for Wolfe, whose leftovers will bring, I believe, him back up to full health.
Yeah, you're going to see Wolfe's Burn Powder do a lot of damage at the end of this turn. Both Thunderous and Calder's health slowly being whittled down.
Yeah, they both have Thunderous has. This is Thunderous' last turn, and Conkeldurr, if it doesn't get switched out, of course, and Conkeldurr looks to have about 2.
Yeah, it's a tough spot for sure. You know, losing 2 Pokemon also kind of just makes things complicated. You lose the ability to switch. And with the Protects here, Blake's not going to be able to do much but watch Thunderous go down.
Exactly, and we see the classic Wolfe Glick moveset, Protect. I have all Protect on my Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, Wolfe's a lover, not a fighter. You know, you just prefer to... just let the Pokemon stay around as long as possible. You have some fun on the field. You know, it's their national championships too, right?
Yeah, let them have their day. And of course, Blake going to have to make a critical choice here, bringing in Charizard now. It's tough losing Conkeldurr and Thunderous there.
Definitely is. It's tough to imagine too much what Blake's going to be able to do here, at least now with both of the Pokemon's Protect down. If you want to either fire a Solar Beam at Milotic, knowing it can't Protect, or anticipate a switch and use it's a Fire-type attack here, you can hopefully get something done, but it's just going to be tough. On the bright side, at least Milotic's defense is not boosted. We always used to see it with the Marvel Scale ability, but now that competitive exists, at least there's not that.
Yeah. That's one thing got going there, and we do see the Mega Charizard come out for Blake, and of course, as we've seen previously in the matches, the Drought ability will bring out the sun there, boosting Fire-type attacks here, and reducing Water-type attacks, so the Scald won't be as strong. Tailwind now, maybe just trying to outspeed potentially at the very end here. Wolfe now getting behind a substitute. And will it fade this time? Yes, another Drain Punch. Oh, but is it enough with that Conkeldurr that is down by 3 stages of attack? It does end up fading. And Conkeldurr getting just a little bit of health back. Milotic paralyzed, though, so not too bad.
Yeah, you finally see something happening the other way, and Charizard gets that Tailwind completely for free. The downside of that is that because it has Tailwind instead of a coverage move like a Ground-type Hidden Power, Charizard's certainly not going to be doing anything to this Heatran, but Conkeldurr able to survive an extra turn. It's going to have a harder time surviving a second turn unless Milotic is fully paralyzed once again, unless Wolfe chooses not to Protect, which he doesn't.
So not protecting, going with a Mach Punch actually into the Milotic slot, and a Flamethrower doubling up in there, maybe anticipating a switch, not using very effective moves against Milotic here, and getting that berry out, raising the special defense, and Heatran going back behind a substitute, and I do think the Conkeldurr will faint to the burn on this one. And Milotic, of course, is unfortunately paralyzed.
That's too bad for Blake there. You know, when you're losing in a game like this, sometimes you have to just go for the big read. So if you don't make the big plays, you're not going to be able to come back. Unfortunately for Blake, there wasn't a big play available to him here. And that's, again, some of why Wolfe is so hard to beat. Lots of players get Scald burns, right? That's not going to get you to the top cut of the national championships. But no one plays with a lead better than Wolfe does. So he's not going to take any unnecessary risks. He's going to be smart every turn. He's going to keep playing safe and make sure that he doesn't do anything to give Blake anything easy.
Yeah, you're exactly right. There has been a lot of big plays here, and sometimes that's what it calls for. Blake actually making a big play last time and predicting the substitute, so completely understand that move there. We get a Protect now from Heatran, not taking any damage this turn, and of course we saw the Landers switch in there for Blake. Milotic protecting as well. So Wolfe just keeping the match going a little bit longer there, and no damage done to either of these Pokemon, and he sees the Solar Beam target there. And Milotic protecting.
And so Wolfe playing it smart here might seem a little bit strange to see him double protecting with this big lead, but no matter how far ahead you are, you don't want to let up. And Tailwind is still out in the field. He wants that to start expiring as quickly as possible, then have to deal with this Charizard that would be faster than his Kangaskhan if he were to bring it in. So Wolfe just wisely playing it safe and showing why he's a former national champion.
Yeah, you're exactly right there. The Heatran taking some damage there on that substitute does end up coming out here. Solar Beam now from Charizard. I do believe it's going to be able to pick up the feint here as long as it's targeted that Milotic slot. And it does, of course, getting rid of that Pokemon finally. And I agree with you there, Scott. Protect away also with that those leftovers on that Heatran there. But a big Heat Wave in the sun is going to do a lot of damage. Critical hit on Charizard and a ton of damage to Landorus there, taking it down to the yellow, and Charizard almost at 50%. The Tailwind is now also gone.
Yeah, we see why that double protect was so wise here. Prevents him from needing to double protect now to get rid of that. Instead, the speed has changed the way it needs to change. Landorus can be very close to being able to be knocked out by Sucker Punch here if it can't be. And, if Landorus is in range for that, the downfall of the choice items, you don't have any choice but to just attack into it and take it. And Charizard will not be able to take Heatran on its own. So Wolfe could be just on the edge of his top cut appearance here.
Yeah, I do believe we are going to see that. We get to protect, though, of course, from Heatran here. Sucker Punch from Kangaskhan actually into the Landorus slot there, most likely knowing his opponent is locked into a move there using a choice item, I believe. So getting rid of it, and we do get a Flamethrower from Charizard in the sun. Will do a decent amount of damage to Kangaskhan. This time not picking up the burn, taking it down to 51 health, and Heatran here looking really great with those leftovers. We see both players shaking each other's hands here. Blake maybe knowing that he's in a tough position.
Yeah, Flamethrower, Solar Beam, Tailwind, Protect Charizard, not going to do much to the Fire and Steel type Heatran. So we see the forfeit, and Wolfe Glick will be moving on to the top cut of the United States National Championships.
That is incredible. I cannot wait to talk to Wolfe about his day. That was an amazing matchup, back and forth, some clutch plays by both trainers here. So that was absolutely amazing. I don't believe that Blake is necessarily out yet. Like you said, it's going to depend on a couple different factors here. So we could definitely be seeing both of these trainers in the top 8, but we're going to find out relatively soon just who has made it out of, like Minaj said earlier, the toughest day 2 he's ever seen.
A lot of players have been saying that too.
Yes.
A lot of players who've played in Worlds has mentioned that they've played in World Swiss, and this is very similar in terms of difficulty. So a very tough tournament to make it out of. I actually think Blake's odds are